Hi, welcome to Midweek Conversation. We're just having this ongoing rambling conversation, and we just needed to jump right into it because it was fascinating.
It was.
In a good way, not my sarcastic way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we were talking about how weird Elon Musk can be. Someone just described him to me this morning as an insane genius, and someone was just commenting on some of his behaviors. And so one of the things that we heard was that when at work, if there's a department or a team that's struggling, he has a mattress that he drags into that area and he sleeps there. And he helps them get this thing under control. What do you think about that?
I think it's funny. I think that's so funny. It's like an art installation.
An art installation?
Mm-hmm. It's very contemporary art minded. Like he could, I don't know, he could be like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a commentary on X, Y, or Z. That could be funny.
Oh, so you're taking this whole different approach to it as opposed to, we're going to get this fixed.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to keep working on it until it's
kind of
right.
reminds me of like, the generals back in the day who were like, I want to fight with my army. I'm not going to sleep on the top of the hill or whatever.
Well, he is a mechanical engineer and a physicist and brings all these things together. And so he sees problems that he wants to solve. Mm-hmm. That's the way he approaches life, I think.
Problem solving.
Yeah, and he just solved the problem of getting 2 people off the International Space Station. So that's pretty cool.
I would have cried if I was lost in space. First of all, I'm not going to space.
But then we were talking about, Sydney was here and she was mentioning Steve Jobs and how he simplified his life by always wearing the exact same outfit. Yeah. And then I realized this morning I was wearing this monochromatic outfit and you walk in like super colorful and I'm like, oh man, I am not prepared. Why are we having this conversation anyway?
I don't know.
Hey, welcome again to Midweek Conversation. I'm Dennis.
I'm Angelica.
And we love being able to sit down. And did we do this last week?
No.
We missed last week.
Yeah.
Man.
Because I was moving.
You were moving. Mm-hmm. How's the move?
It was good. We're in our new spot. So I'm sleepy, but it was good. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I think we have some music playing somewhere in the room. I wonder if we should kill that. Maybe if there's someone who's in the wings, they'll kill it for us. So in the meantime, let's celebrate.
I know. Celebrate.
So hey, again, how was your weekend? How was Sunday?
Sunday was good.
You were awesome.
Yeah.
So this Sunday, if you haven't seen the service yet, go and watch because
go watch first service.
Angelica and her mom Tanya were leading our worship and leading us in song, and it was so great. Mm-hmm. You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I really liked that. It was really fun. I think my mom is very talented. She's over there. But yeah, she's very talented, and it was a lot of fun. I think I don't know. I think it's cool, the different gifts that God gives us to worship Him. I'm just glad that one of the things He gave me was music to worship Him, Mm-hmm. People have different things. And yeah, that is so cool. I was like, I get to sing and it gets to be something, gets to mean something. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Mom gets to play and sing. Play piano and sing.
So when you approach something like that, how do you select the music for us?
Prayer, definitely. Definitely, like a lot of times you're kind of led in the direction you're supposed to be going. If you're listening if you're familiar with the Holy Spirit, how He communicates with you, then you'll be like, oh, I think this is like a prompting that I should go look into this. It could be like an artist's name, or it could be like, oh, what was that melody that I'm thinking of? And you're like, oh, it's that song or whatever.
Right.
Kind of just happens like that. These ones, well, also like, I think part of like a good, healthy life overall, not necessarily just with your faith, but anything is continuing to research and continuing to like expand your viewpoints and your thoughts and everything. Mm-hmm. So like with music, there's like a depth of music that I know my mom has, and that I think that I'm also growing in, all different genres, all different, and having played instruments, having been in like band, having been in choir, you kind of get you get more depth. So when you're gonna go do something like this later, you're like, oh, this is so great, because now there's more that God could choose from, because I'm actually out collecting like information. And that's kind of like why, this is a little bit of a segue, but that's why you should continue to read your Bible. I'm always advocating for that. Like why you should continue to look at scripture, even that seems obsolete, because later it will be like, something will pop up to you and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's from...
And there's this connection
Yeah,
that
yeah.
happens.
Exactly. Yeah. And so just because you have it in your head now, I always think that that's a cool way to grow. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like when I was reading this passage and that we spoke on this weekend, and I got to the end, to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise, honor, and glory, power forever and ever. And as soon as I read that, it's to him who sits on the throne. This song just came back to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've sung that in 20 years, but it was there. And is that something that God does? Is that how he designed our brain? I don't know how to explain the mechanics of it, but it happens, right? And that's cool.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard that song before Mom played it for me, and it's been like stuck in my head ever since. It's cool.
It's
it is
an
cool
earworm,
though.
isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like, wow, look at that.
Yeah. Such a simple little song.
Thanks for that.
Cool.
Actually, I
Yeah.
had just gotten it out of my...
You just got it out of your head,
Yeah,
and now it's there
back.
again. Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, really.
So, what? Anything in the message strike you this week, or
Oh, that's...
anything in the
Dang
news?
it.
that you wanna
I
talk
forgot to bring my... I think I forgot to bring my journal.
So it's so cool. Angelica has this journal, and she takes her notes.
That's
the message in that.
helps me compile my thoughts.
Yeah.
Is it in there? Oh my gosh. Thanks, Mom.
I think we're gonna have a cameo appearance here.
Oh, yeah, you
wait,
can
wait.
come on.
We're going off. We're going off set. Oh, this is Tanya.
Oh, that's so cute. Thank you, Mama. Wow. I can't live without her. Okay. Ooh, I love talking. Well, love is an interesting. It's cool to talk about like the temptations of Christ. I feel like we don't often talk about that, but it's such a huge reminder of the human aspect that he had to take on to live on earth, to be tormented by Satan in the wilderness, like by himself. And then like it's totally, you understand why it says like he understands our pain. Like he's not just like this giant force out there who like doesn't understand what human life is and like what suffering and hardship is. So that, I love talking about that, and I like that was brought up.
Anything about that particular temptation? That was Matthew chapter 4.
Yeah, so the temptation to worship the Lord your God and serve him only was the key factor there. I think like that's definitely the most clear command. Like it's so obvious. Worship God and serve him only. And it's also like one of the hardest things to do, because I think for humans, it's very easy for us to like justify and like play mental gymnastics as to why this isn't me worshiping something else. It's not me putting something else above God. It's just something I really care about. And it's like, so it can be really deceptive, that like that commandment of like, you should be worshiping God and serving him only. Suddenly, really what you're doing is worshiping your your job and serving yourself, but it feels like, oh, I'm just like working hard. And it's not actually that type thing. So, and that all trickles down to that worth question, that worth, how are you like aligning your life? What is in your highest value place or whatever. And honestly, another hard thing about it is that you always have to continue to evaluate that and like question it all the time if how you're living is correctly ordered or not.
Right.
It's constantly, is God actually first? Is God actually first? Something will happen.
And what does that look like? So if you haven't seen the message yet, the main point is that worship is, you can define it as worthship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what we place our value in. It's what we find to be worth spending our time, our money, our lives on.
Yeah.
And if we're going to worship God, that means He has to be in the highest position.
Yeah.
And that we're showing Him. Worship means to place Him in that highest worth position in our lives.
Totally.
But there's all kinds of things that want to push it out. So in this temptation, Satan is trying to push that out of Jesus' life and say, hey, put me in that place and I'll give you all of this. And so immediately Jesus' desire for power is questioned. Is it a desire for power? And he said, no, it's not about my having power. I don't need to have all of the world. If you bow down and worship me, I will give you all these kingdoms of the world and all of their splendor. So it's about power and it's about money, and Jesus refuses to do that. So he's in making that assertion and in making that denial, he's placing his Father in the top position, right? So anyway, that's what that's about.
And it's interesting, like, the fact that like within that temptation, I always thought it was interesting because it's like Jesus already has the entire world in all of its splendor.
Right.
So like even
He created it.
He created it. So the fact that like Satan is even trying to like, I mean, it's no shocker that he's lying, but like, it's funny that he tries to do that like doubt thing again with the temptation where he's like, you can have this. And you're like, oh, wait, I thought I did have that. I thought I did have, joy. I thought I did have peace, but maybe I don't. So maybe I need this other thing. And it's like, it's like so tricky. It's so tricky. And that's such a tactic that he'll use. Like you said, he turns every, it was like the quote from a few weeks ago.
He turns every trial into a temptation. Satan turns every trial into a temptation.
And like how he does that is through so many different, just like stupid lies, honestly.
They're very subtle.
Yeah. It's the subtle things that are worse. It's the things that you're not sure are there. You're like, oh, whoopsie, that was bad. That'll get you. Yeah. But yeah, I liked that. It was a good message. We have to get our priorities right. Yeah, priorities, discernment, prayer.
This is one of the reasons I love the book of Revelation, because it sends you to all these different places in Scripture. And there are so many connections.
You did have a lot of different... What I like, too, is like the way that we're going through Revelation, because it could get really like... Sometimes it's fun to actually look into like maybe the like historical evidence and stuff like that, like start talking about, when it was written, yada, yada. Like that stuff is fun. I think we should do that. But then it's also fun to realize that it's still like part of the Bible. It's like, it still has those connections, and it's actually like a story. Sometimes it can feel like it's just, what am I even reading? Like it feels disjointed or something. And you're like, I don't even know what this has to do with anything else.
Right.
It's like at the end of the Bible, it's at the end of time, maybe. I don't really know. But it's so interesting to go through it. And I like how we're going through it in a way that reminds us that there's still applicable like knowledge in this book. Like talking about the through line, how that's worth, putting worth is not something that's like abstract. Putting worth, the concept of giving something worth is not an abstract thing. Everybody knows what that means. I value something. I think it's worth it to do this, or I think that's worth this. And that's something in Revelation that's like right there.
Yeah. It's funny we mentioned that because if there's anything that gets my wife started, it's when she asks someone about something and they said, oh, I didn't have the time. And she will drop everything to make this point. And she'll say, excuse me, we all have the same amount of time. It's that you didn't want to do it. So you had the time to do this, you chose not to. And that's always a good reminder to me, because I can't say that I didn't have the time to do something if she asked me to do it. She'll come back at me with that. You had the time, you just chose not to do it. So be straight with me and tell me you'd rather not do that. So its worth isn't there to me, right? And but it's how we structure our time and how we structure our expenses, how we structure our lives that shows, it demonstrates those things that we place worth in. So
totally,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I have a little tea steeper in here.
What do you got in there in your fancy lavender Yeti cup?
Tea.
Nice.
Peach. Delicious. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Anything else going on in your head or in life?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess with the move and everything, there gets to be a lot more things to do, a lot more things you have to prioritize. And so I guess my takeaway from Sunday was just to remember to check your priorities, I guess, would be mine. Like, what's your priority? And like, what am I valuing the most? I don't know. I'm not constantly asking myself that. Maybe I should, what do I value the most? I think that was a question you asked. I want to ask you this question. And I'm like, I don't actually know. I don't think I've sat with it long enough to think about it even from yesterday to today. It's like, I'm not sure.
Well, one of the things that I said in the first service, I didn't say it in the second service, and it was that worship is about boundaries. I think I maybe even said in the prayer, we were told in seminary, never preach the rest of your sermon in your closing prayer.
Whoopsie.
But I've been thinking about that because your boundaries help also to show what's of worth to you. And I've had family call me out on how I spend my time and if I give my family enough time. And so if I value my family, I have to create a boundary with regard to my time and how I spend it, and how I allow others to break into that if I do. So boundaries really do have a lot to do with those things that we value in our lives. It really, to me, this topic just really opens up a lot of
I think I wanted to hear more of that.
Yeah.
I think if sometime we could spend more time on just that. I was a little like, I remember you saying that now that you said it, but I was a little like, boundaries, what do you mean? Like, in what way? Like I don't know. So like what you just explained, that makes a lot of sense, but I think I was a little bit like, to me, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just interesting. I think I'd like to hear more.
Well, maybe I'll jot that one down in my journal and it'll something
show up.
will percolate up through this text, I'm pretty sure, because there's a lot about that here. You know, one of the things that we see in the book of Revelation is that there's this camera and it shifts between earth and heaven. And the perspective in heaven gives us a renewed perspective on how we live our lives on earth. And that's what I believe is happening in this book as that camera shifts back and forth. So for those of us who are on earth and consider us to ourselves to be citizens of earth, but also citizens of heaven, to kind of put those things in perspective and maybe have boundaries around our lives on this planet. So, and anyway, that's
yeah, there is boundaries. I was like, oh, I don't know that word. It was just interesting. I guess, you know, God puts boundaries on us, on our understanding, on what we're capable of and everything. And, you know, if he's doing everything out of love, you know, for us and to us, then it's kind of like, okay, so, you know, you can have loving boundaries too. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I'm setting this boundary up because you're annoying me type thing. Like, it doesn't have to be like a fence being put up between neighbors or something. It's not like that. You're not creating it. It's almost more like, you know, something that you're putting up to direct a stream or something.
Right.
So like irrigates the crops more efficiently, more than it is, let's put this boundary up between each other so that we can just have our own.
Yeah, a lot of people think that a boundary is black and white, off and on.
Yeah.
You know, it's either it's full on or it's full off. But like you said, it can redirect, right? So there is this gray area in there that we have to be aware of.
Right.
And I think if we're going to effectively employ boundaries in our lives, we need to embrace that model.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we live these little lives that are in these little boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I realize this has been kind of a rambling conversation today, but hopefully it's maybe sprung some ideas. And if you have an idea about boundaries or a question or any of these other things about worth and worship and worthship, we'd love for you to kind of write that in the bottom there or send us an email at Angelica.
Elon Musk or space travel or anything.
Yeah, Elon Musk. back to Elon Musk. You know, perhaps that's a guy who doesn't have boundaries.
With the work thing?
With the whole work thing. That's an interesting, but then again, maybe someone would say, oh, he has some real boundaries and it's just all about work.
Yeah. It's interesting because it would be his business. So then it begs the question, like, are you breaking the boundaries on your own house?
Yeah.
You know, type almost like that, but then it's like, right, but other people are involved. So I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah. Well, again, if you have a comment or a question, please go ahead and email us at Dennis or Angelica at riverhillschurch.org or write it, type it down there in the comment box. And have a great week, and we hope to see you sometime here in the next week. All right, you take care. Bye now.